Hello again, welcome as ever on a Thursday to an hour of lively and topical sporting chat here. We'll look ahead to one of the Championship's biggest games of the season, certainly one of Sheffield Wednesday's biggest games of the season, tomorrow night, Friday evening at the KC Stadium against Championship leaders Hull City. Big game indeed. Lawrie Madden will be giving us his thoughts on that one and the Hillsborough season in general. I mentioned the word topical. It couldn't be more so in the case of our other guest. Among the many trials and tribulations of Sheffield United's season, the very recent news that one of their best players, Jose Baxter, had been suspended. We know that he failed a drugs test. Now, this is familiar territory to one of our guests this evening who had the same experience during his playing career. He is Shane Nicholson. Good evening to you, Shane.
Good evening.
We'll get into that later. No. Former Derby County, among many other clubs, also West Bromwich Albion, Sheffield United he played for, coincidentally as well. Chesterfield had 8 clubs in his playing career. And Lawrie Madden as ever, familiar face, old friend to the station. Good evening to you as well. And as I said at the start, it couldn't get bigger than tomorrow evening, could it really, Lawrie?
No. I mean, it's been an interesting one. I think Wednesday have just had a little bit of a blip, and they'll be hoping to sort of rectify that unsavoury record of not being able to win against one of the top teams at the moment. So we're better to go than Hull, really, and sort of put the record straight. Really, it'll be a good one to come away with. It
will, and the whole chemistry of the game has perhaps changed in that maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago you'd have looked at it and thought, well, a draw would be a good result there. I'm not so sure that every Wednesday night would settle for a draw now, because there's always been that tantalising feeling that they could compete for a top 2. Realistically, they've got to win that game now, haven't they?
I think if they'd beaten Preston last week, they would have been in touching distance of the top 2. That defeat, coupled with the draw midweek, has obviously been a bit of a reality check now. They're playing catch up, really. So it makes getting into that top 2 a little bit harder. But I think it also needs to put to rest that you can compete against the top 3 or 4 teams, really. I think that's psychologically, I think they need to put that to rest.
As you say, no better time to do it than this game. They've been close against top teams, but not quite close enough and not quite edging them. We'll come back to that and Sheffield Wednesday generally, and we'll talk about Sheffield United too with Shane Nicholson. But we kick off with what I said was that topical subject, because Shane is used to this being brought up. I mean, just briefly on Biog, you had a very good career, over 500 career appearances for 8 clubs. I mentioned some of them at the start, and yet perhaps chiefly remembered for something that went radically wrong. When he was at West Bromwich Albion in season 1997-98, Shane failed a drugs test. He was subsequently banned by the FA for life. But we'll hear the full story of what then happened. He was allowed back. He was allowed back into the game quite quickly, actually, by Chesterfield. But these days, having learned a big lesson, I think, you're now putting your experiences to very good use. Just tell us exactly what you're doing in that regard.
Well, I mean, I wanted to for a long time to try and give something back and share my experiences of what I've gone through in my career. And it's just come to fruition now that I'm able to go and support Tony Adams' clinic with Andrew Jordan and go around the football clubs and speak to the academies, the young lads, and educate them. Well, not educate them, just give them my testimony really about how I went, the decisions that I made, about my life growing up, which I think is very important, because I didn't just one day decide that I'm going to start, taking every drug known to man. There's a process that I went through as a young man growing up, and I believe that kind of moulded me into the person that made the decisions that I made. So there's a lot more to it than just failing a drug test. I always go back to my childhood. My family was very dysfunctional. That didn't help. So as of yet, every club that I've been to, they've been very, very receptive. We've had good feedback, and long may it continue.
When you talk there about taking every drug known to man, was that you?
It was, yeah.
Everything?
Yes, I took every drug, yeah. Acid, ecstasy, speed, cocaine, heroin pills. Yeah, but it all started with alcohol. You know, alcohol was my first drug of choice.
And then you mix the two.
Well, yeah, I mean, drinking from an early age, from 12 years old, you know, and with how my life was as a young man, with incidents that were going off at home, I never spoke about them, to do with, you know, with the violence I saw at home with my mum and dad. Because you don't speak about it as a young man, it stays inside you and you suppress it. But eventually, all these bad things that you're seeing, they're going to display themselves in some way, shape or form. And unfortunately, it was when I had a drink, it would display itself. And it was always anger. The emotion that first came out was anger. So subconsciously, you know, I'm thinking that there's something wrong with me. The only thing that was wrong with me is I wasn't talking about the problems that I had. Maybe if I'd done that then maybe these anger issues wouldn't have been like they were.
And how long did this go on for? This drug taking, alcohol, etc. Before you were actually shopped or found out.
I started drinking when I was 12, but I started taking drugs when I was 16, and then obviously got banned at 27. So
you were in the professional football for a long time.
Yes, I was.
Where did football figure in then for you if you were drinking at 12?
I wasn't drinking, when I say I was drinking at 12, I had my first drink at 12 years old. Like I said, because I saw what my dad was doing. My dad was a big drinker as well, an alcoholic as well. And now I'm either going to be intrigued or I'm either going to run away from the alcohol. But because what I saw in my head, I would tell myself that I saw alcohol make people happy. That's what I thought and that's what I wanted to believe. So because of the type of person I was, very insecure, I wanted to believe that this juice that people were drinking in a pub made them happy, made them grow, confident, and I wanted that. So 12 years old, was a party, was a disco. I decided with a few friends that I would try it. And the analogy I always give is, it's like the room is pitch black, I drink it, and as soon as it touched my lips, it's like a light went on in my head. So chemically, it did something different to me. And I remember it, I didn't want to let the can go. I didn't want to let, and it wasn't because of how it tasted or anything like that, it's because of how it made me feel. The feeling was like, crikey, you know, I've found something here that can, at 12 years old I felt that. But by 16, I realised by then that it just didn't agree with me because of the anger issues that I was having, and it was getting me in so much trouble, even up to 16 years old. The issues I was having at home, my mum, she booted me out at 16 years old to go and live in Lincoln.
Did you stop the drinking at that point?
No.
Just carried on?
No. Yeah,
and yet despite this, you were an achiever. You became a professional footballer.
Yeah.
How much better could you have been without the damage that you were doing to yourself?
I'd like to have thought I'd have gone to the top, but you know, it is what it is. You know, I was blessed to have a career that what I had. You know, unfortunately for me, I was playing at, I suppose that the highest I got was in the Championship, was when I was doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I was so young and so fit, that kind of justified to me that I could do it.
You were the youngest ever player in Lincoln City's history. I made a note of from research, 16 years and some days. So you got into the game early. Just before we come on to anything you can say in relation to, for instance, Jose Baxter and other players who fail drugs tests, Lawrie, does any of what Shane has described there as an ex-player yourself, does any of that surprise you?
No, I think what has changed a little bit is more sort of the drinking culture, but I think now there's more temptations in other areas now for players, or not just for players, but people in society. I mean, we're looking at, there's a case now, former Sunderland player up in Bradford now, we're talking about sex. I think the other thing, we were just talking about it earlier, that for a lot of players now, gambling is a big issue. These are issues that have recently come on board, and I think alcohol starts it and then it triggers off into other areas, and Shane probably knows better than most. So I think, you know, there's more temptations out there now for everyone in general, but particularly in players who sometimes have quite a lot of time on their hands and can use that in not necessarily constructive ways.
How healthy is it, or unhealthy for society generally, and particularly for football followers, that we're inundated with betting options? During a game, Ray Winston will come on and offer you the latest odds on Rooney scoring the next goal. That's got to be desperately unhealthy for society, hasn't it, really? And players and footballers who they're not allowed to officially, but ways and means, I suppose.
Well, yeah, but listen, if you've got a problem and you sat at home, I mean, gamblers, if you were to try and describe an alcoholic to me, a stereotypical alcoholic, you would say, right, somebody who's got long hair, has got yellow teeth, he's got blah, blah, blah. If you try to describe a gambler, you can't, because he's like the everyday man. He doesn't stand out from anyone. You can sit at home. You can, like you said, you can watch a football match. Ray Winston comes up at half time. Is Wayne Rooney going to score the next goal 4-1? It's rammed down your throat constantly. So if you have a problem, you know, where do you take yourself? You know, you think at home you're going to be safe, but in actual fact, you're not. So what do? You have to turn the TV off. Or if you've got a problem, you ask for help. That's the main thing. You must ask for help.
It's very easy to see people becoming addicted to the gambling culture, because it gives you a little bit of extra thrill on top of the thrill of watching the game. But let's just come to the present. I mean, just briefly for Biog, there you were in 97, 98 with West Bromwich Albion. You failed a test. Did you not argue initially with your first failed test that your drink had been spiked? Is that correct?
Yeah, I, being the devious addict that I was, you know, I was the best liar in the world, and that's what you become because you kind of leave a double life. So I came up with a story that I would pay my friend some money to come with me to the meeting in London. We had to make out that we didn't know each other, and he would say that he spiked my drink. And my friend stuttered quite badly. So we sat in a big room in London with David Dean, and everyone sat around in there, and I'm sat opposite him. He's warned before the meeting starts that he will get 5 years imprisonment if he's found that he's lying. So I put my head on the table thinking that he's going to cave in, but he doesn't. So all I'm thinking about in my head while the meeting's going on is, he convinces them. Not convinces them so I can carry on playing football, so I can carry on taking drugs. That was the reality of it, really. You know, I would tell people, yeah, oh, crikey, yeah, you know, I've been hard done by, but it was so I could carry on taking drugs. That's the reality of it. They believe what he said. After the meeting, they told me that they would now have to randomly test me, because before that it was only on a Monday. So I knew that. So some mornings I wouldn't go on a Monday morning. But what I would do, now they're going to randomly test me, you see, was I would carry my own urine with me, a clear set of, I'd put it in my wash bag, and I'd carry it around with me. So when the testers came, I knew I had it there. So during the time, I got passed on to, I was actually got put in prison at Derby. I come out of prison when I was playing the playoff final against Leicester. Then I got sold on to West Brom. So what all I'm doing is I'm obviously taking my problems from Derby to West Brom. I get there, I fail my test. That's when I find out then I have to start taking the wee around with me. I went 3 months without taking any drugs. During that time, my father passed away. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she lost a baby. So it was kind of tough. The drinking kind of compounded at all sorts. Because I wasn't taking drugs, the drinking picked up speed. 3 months after I'd been there, the testers came. I knew I was going to pass because I didn't take no drugs. I passed the test, I went straight out. I did what I did best. And I you know, went and used every drug unknown to man again. Went back into work the Monday morning thinking I was clever, and the testers were there the week after. So I wasn't as clever as what I thought I was, but on saying that, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, the best.
As a person?
As a person, but just the best thing that could have happened to me, because I wouldn't have stopped. And I wouldn't have stopped until, you know, until I was probably dead.
You wouldn't have been here?
No.
Possibly?
No.
Yeah.
So I'd have carried on.
The case of Jose Baxter potentially stripping Sheffield United of one of their best players, there's no question of his talent, but the biggest loss potentially is to him. You know, his career could be on the line. You know the history. He was banned for 5 months. 3 of those were suspended. This was last year. He claimed that his drink had been spiked. There was an element of clemency in that. Now that overhanging suspension on top of whatever they, you know, is administered this time, if proven guilty, because at the moment, as far as we're aware, we just know that he's failed a drugs test. We don't know any other details. Have you, in your role as now a missionary, really, to help footballers, have you spoken to Jose Baxter at all?
No, I haven't. No, I only know what you know. I would love to. I believe I have. You know, I just believe going through what I've gone through, I believe I could help him. But you know, Jose first, he has to help himself by putting his hands up, accepting and acknowledging that he probably does have a problem. You know, because that's the first step that you have to take. Even when I went into the clinic, and I was in the clinic for 4 months, I was in there 2 or 3 weeks before actually holding my hands up and saying, you know what, I have got a problem. I've never met the guy before. He might not think he has a problem. You know, with the results, what's gone off, that might tell us something different, because if you fail one drugs test, you're playing Russian roulette. You know what I mean? If you get caught the second time, that's insane, surely. That's what I did, I know. That's the insanity of drug taking. You never ever think you're going to get caught.
It's not too late for him to put this behind him, and he's obviously, you know, if proven, he's going to have a lengthy ban. You know, but I think he's 24, isn't he? Around 24 years of age. Potentially could still have a career if he uses this as a turning point, you say?
Of course he has. Yeah, like you say, he's 24 years old. You know, it really isn't the end of the world. He might think it is, but he has to, you know, whatever sentence they give him, he has to accept it, take it on the chin, you know. But like I say, he has to hold his hands up and accept. And I don't know him. Like I said before, I have to stipulate, I do not know him. He might not think that he has a problem. If he doesn't think that he has a problem with drugs, then, you know,
that is a problem.
That is a problem within itself.
The offer is there anyway. If anybody's
100%.
watching at Sheffield United, if Jose Baxter's watching, here's a guy genuinely willing and wanting to help any player, not just this one, that gets him involved in difficulty with this kind of thing. We'll talk in the second part of the programme about how rife this problem might be in football and how widespread do you think it might be, because it's alarming, even getting one case. But in the meantime, just back to Lawrie before the break, it's been a very exciting Sheffield Wednesday season. I think at the moment we've got to put that into perspective. They've had 2 disappointing results, but relatively it's a blip, isn't it? Only a blip.
Well, I think if you look at the season as a whole, it's been a slow, steady, gradual improvement. You know, they were in the bottom half of the table, then they went on a little run, got them into the top half, had a little setback, then they went again, just kept missing out on the top 6, then went back, and now they've got themselves in the top 6, and then you thought they might kick on and then just come back a bit. If history shows, if the season's anything to show by, they will kick on again, because each time they've had a little bit of a blip, they've picked themselves up and gone again. So hopefully, if that's what's happened so far, and they carry on in that way, there's obviously a bit more life in them yet.
Yeah, they've reacted well to this kind of setback. And although I wasn't there on Tuesday for the 1-1 draw with QPR, from what I read and what I hear, it's not as if they played badly. They should have won the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I looked at it, I was asked before the game, I said this is going to be a tight game. I thought Wednesday would win, but it'd be tight. I mean, if you look at QPR's away record going into that game, in the last 7 games, they've won 2 and drawn 4. They've only lost 1 in 7. So whatever they do away from home, their system's not bad. So it was always going to be a difficult game. And then obviously if you miss penalties and you don't take your chances and then you go behind, you build up a bit of pressure on yourself, and this is what happened on this occasion. Scoring first, you know, is important at this level.
We'll come back to that again in the second part of the programme, talk about the importance of Fernando Forestieri as well, who's suspended in midweek and plays tomorrow night. Do you still follow the fortunes of the 2 Sheffield clubs, United, who you played for a season?
Yeah, I do actually. I follow every club that I've been at, which takes quite a while, but obviously some of them have dropped out of the league. I mean, the Stockport, Tranmere, Lincoln and Boston, they've all dropped out of the league, so...
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying I feel very old. Yeah,
Ever since you left, isn't it?
Hey, all your clubs have had difficulties, haven't they? West Bromwich Albion struggling to stay.
They had a lot of difficulty when I was there as well.
Yeah. There's Chesterfield. Well, they're doing all right at the moment. There's been an upturn under Danny Wilson. Tranmere Rovers, no. Derby County, they're coming back. They're coming back, aren't they? Had a couple of wins.
Yeah,
should be as well.
Yeah, it's my friend who's taken over there, Darren Wassell and Pat, and I really do hope that I know he's been given a chance to the end of the season. He's got a fantastic opportunity at an incredible club. Yeah. You know, it really is. So yeah, it's incredible. The support there is just incredible. It really is. It's a lovely club. So I hope they do the business.
Yeah. Okay. In other circumstances, I would, but looking to get our clubs up that football ladder, and Sheffield Wednesday in the promotion to the Premier League if possible. We've got a break. Lawrie wants to speak. He will be able to in 5 minutes. Do hope you rejoin us then. See you then. Bye.
No, I was just going to